Computer science. We've got more to talk about classes. Today we're going to talk about constructors. So if you've got a class with a bunch of attributes, so here's our class ball. It has 4 attributes: diameter, a velocity, so how fast is that ball moving, does the ball bounce, a Boolean attribute, and what color is the ball, which is represented by a string. When I create a new ball, so I use the new keyword and I say ball kickball equals new ball, what values will be assigned to these instance variables? What will the state be? Well, the initial state when you create an object is going to be the zero-ish values of each variable, of each instance variable. The zero-ish value will be determined by the type of that variable. And you pretty much can guess what these are. The zero-ish value of an int is going to be 0. A double is 0.0. A Boolean has a zero-ish value of false, and strings or any other object, anything that's not an int, double, or Boolean, will have the zero-ish value of null, which effectively means nothing. It's not even a string, it's just nothing. These are the zero-ish values. And so when you create a new object, these are the values that will be assigned to all of its instance variables, all of its attributes. But that's sometimes not what you want. It's usually not what you want. Usually you want to, as the programmer, give actual values to these variables when you create a ball. You don't want to create a ball with a diameter of 0, and no color. What is that? That's nothing. So what you do is you create a constructor. A constructor is a special method that initializes the instance variables of the object when it's created. So it's a special method, and it has a bunch of code that all they do is assign values to the instance variables. This method has a method header, the constructor header. It's a method header. That method header has a name, and the name matches exactly the name of the class. So you don't have to think very hard. What am I going to name my constructor? Whatever the name of the class is, that's the name of the constructor, including the capital first letter. Spelling matters. It's got to be exactly the same. There's no return type for a constructor. And this is a common mistake. Sometimes you'll make a constructor, you'll say public void ball. You remember it doesn't return anything, but it's not even void. You just don't write anything in where the return type would go. So the constructor is just public, name of the class, parentheses, your parameter list. It does have one of those. And then the body of the constructor is real simple. The body of the constructor, you just assign values to all of the instance variables. For every instance variable, assign it a value and pick whatever value you think is good for a default value for that type of object. So in this case, when I make a new ball, it's going to be a 9-inch diameter, have a velocity of 0, so it's not moving. It does bounce, and it's a red color. So that's a default ball when you create it using this code. So the constructor, just like a regular method, it has a parameter list. You can put parameters in there. So a parameter, remember, is just declaring variables within those parentheses. You give it a type and a name for each variable. You can have multiple of them separated by commas. And then you can use those parameters to assign those values to the instance variables. So here we're taking 2 parameters, diam and c. I use diam to assign the value to the diameter, and I use c to assign that value to color. Make sure you got to be real careful here to remember that when the assignment statement is variable name is assigned value. So the variable name is always on the left, the value is always on the right. So when you say diameter is assigned diam, you are taking the value of diam and assigning it to the variable diameter. It's important to get that order correct, because if you make that order backwards, it won't do what you want it to do. Yeah, so we're here, I'm just showing you with arrows. We're using the parameters to assign values to those instance variables. So where do the values for the parameters come from? When you invoke a method, the arguments get passed to the parameters, and that's what's assigned to the parameters. Well, when we use the new keyword and we say new ball, that's invoking the constructor. And we put the arguments within those parentheses, and those arguments get passed up and assigned to the parameters of the constructor. So in this example here, the value of diam will be 9, and the value of c will be red, and we'll use those values to initialize the instance variables, diameter and color, while velocity and bounces get some default values as defined by the constructor here. And that's it. That's constructors. So by default, when you make a new instance of an object, all of the instance variables will be assigned their 0-ish value. So 0, 0.0, false, or null. You can write a constructor, which is a special method that initializes those instance variables to specific values. And you can use parameters in your constructor to let the user, when they create a new instance of the object, say what they want those instance variables to be. And you invoke the constructor with the new keyword. So when you say new ball, that's invoking the ball constructor in the ball class. When you say new string, you're invoking the string constructor in the string class. And that's it. That's constructors. No big deal. That is computer science.